Hi folks, in this tutorial we'll be looking at making a Desert Wasteland base for your miniature wargames. So without any further ado, let's get started. Firstly, I'm going to create some grooves in the base using a hobby knife. This scoring of the base creates a better surface for any sands and glues to adhere to, than just applying it straight onto the smooth surface. Next, I will be applying some PVA craft glue to small areas of the base, which we'll then apply some sand to. This is going to create a variant rough ground texture from the Crackle texture paint we will use further in the tutorial. Once the glue has been applied, I'm going to sprinkle some modelling sand onto the base. Once the area of the glue is covered, I'm then going to tap off the excess and then leave this sand to dry. Next, I'll be coming in with some Agrellan Earth texture paint from Games Workshop. This is quite a viscous paint and when dried leaves a cracked earth finish. The trick with Agrellan Earth is that the thicker you apply it, the bigger the cracks are. So if you want a variation in the size of the cracks on the base, then it would be a good idea to apply some areas where the paint is thick and some areas where the paint is thin. Now this will take quite a long time to dry, several hours. I recommend leaving this overnight, and whilst it's still wet you can move it around to vary the thickness and add a bit more if you think it needs it. Once the Crackle paint is dried, it should look something like this. I have also given the base a coat of English uniform from Vallejo to provide a nice base colour for the washes to be applied to. The two washes I'll be using in this next step are Agrak's Earthshade from Games Workshop and Cassandora Yellow from Games Workshop. Here I'll be applying the Agrak's Earthshade neat from the pot onto 70 to 80% of the base. The Agrak's Earthshade will help to really define the cracks in the earth and the sand texture that we've applied earlier. Whilst the Agrak's Earthshade is still wet, apply the Cassandora Yellow to the areas of the base that have not been covered by wash. Don't worry if the two colours merge, we actually want to go for this look, it will help vary the tones of the washes on the base. Once the washes have dried, we're going to do a few layers of dry brushing to really define the detail. We're going to start here with a dry brush of Karak stone from Games Workshop. With dry brushing, you want to use a piece of paper towel or kitchen towel to remove most of the paint from the end of the brush. You then want to do a backwards and forwards motion across the object and leaving the paint only on the raised areas of the model. It is always advised to be light with the dry brushing, as it is easier to build up colour than it is to take the colour away. The next dry brush will be using Flayed Flesh from Games Workshop. With this dry brush we are really going to focus on the cracked earth portions of the base rather than all over dry brush. This is a lighter colour than the Karak stone and will really help the cracked portions of the base pop out. For the third and final dry brush I'm going to be using Screaming Skull. Now this is an optional step, but it's really if you want to push it to make it a more bone bleached desert look. Again, focus on small areas rather than an all over dry brush with this colour. Next, I will be adding some vegetation to the base. This will be applied in a small amount and I'll be using burnt grass from Woodland Scenics to do this. We're going to start out by applying some trusty old PVA on the areas that we want the flock to be. Once the glue is in the desired position, we can then sprinkle on some of the burnt grass flocking. We can then tap off the excess, and then we were left with the remnants of vegetation or the start of new growth in this barren wasteland. Finally, all that is left to do is to paint the rim of the base. I recommend doing this the same as the rest of your army, but for me that's Abaddon black, so here I'm applying a coat of Abaddon black just to neaten up the rim of the base. And with the rim painted, the base is now complete. Thanks for watching, and I hope this gives you some ideas for your miniatures.